Welcome everyone to today's Avid Tech Talk webcast series. These sessions were created for Avid customers and partners to administer, design, use, and implement Avid products. These sessions were also created to help you be more successful with the deployment and use of Avid products. And we're really excited about our session today. In today's session, we're going to be focusing on iNEWS, specifically taking a closer look at essential iNEWS maintenance tips. Today's session is a live webcast presentation, and the session is really not designed with polished marketing content. Instead, these sessions are less formal, focused on providing participants with technical content and as much demo material as possible. My name is Kelly Hoops. I'm a Senior Director with Avid Global Services. I'm going to be the host of today's session. Today's technical content will be presented by Tom Hansom and James Allen. Tom is the Principal Systems Engineer for iNEWS in Customer Care, and he's located in Burlington, and James is the Principal Expert iNEWS Engineer and is joining us from our Pinewood Studios office in London. We're excited to have Tom and James bring a lot of great industry experience to this presentation. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Tom and James.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Hope everybody can hear me. So today we're going to discuss a few things that we think all customers, all system administrators at customer sites should know at least somewhat how to do. These are things that you probably don't do very often, such as properly shutting down an iNEWS server, starting up an iNEWS system, rebooting an iNEWS system, or changing the master node on an iNEWS system, connecting an iNEWS server as a single system, recover from a mirror network disconnect, recover from an iNEWS server failure. We'll talk about the difference between stop all and shutdown, and we'll show you some links to AvidKB articles on iNEWS server recovery that can be found on the Avid knowledge base. And we'll go over some connect options, the system profile, and the system config file. So the first thing we're going to discuss is how to properly shut down a dual server iNEWS system. Most of our customers have dual server systems. There are a few larger customers out there which do have triple servers for more redundancy, but for this demo we're just going to demonstrate a two-server system. So we're going to go through a normal system shutdown that includes the commands on the left of your screen there. Becoming super user, typing offline, checking for users logged in, sending a broadcast message to users, the system may be going down or will be going down, logging out all users, shutting down iNEWS, and then shutting down the operating system. So let me pull up my my connections, command line connections to my two iNEWS servers. You'll see two black windows on your screen there. The one on the left is iNEWS Server A, and the one on the right is iNEWS Server B. So we'll go through these steps, and James, you might want to respond as to why it's a critical thing to shut down both servers together and not one server at a time, spread apart by a period of time.
Yes, this is very, very important. You must shut down an iNEWS system in the way we're about to describe, because the servers that make up your system, most of you will have two servers. Some big sites have got three. But there's always two or three, and each server has got its own copy of your database, and the databases are in a mirrored configuration. So any changes that are made by a user, say, who is logged in on the A machine, as part of the transaction of saving their story or whatever changes they're making, part of that transaction is that the change is sent over to the other server to be saved on its disk. So the two databases are kept in synchronization all the time. So The proper shutdown procedure makes sure that both servers are, both databases are closed and shut down at the same time. Therefore, both systems, both databases are in the same state upon shutdown. And that's extremely important because if it's not done in that way, the databases will become different. If one server is shut down first, the second server may run for a while with some users making additional changes. So the two databases become different, and that becomes a problem when you go to rejoin them whenever you start up the servers, because the two databases now have got different data in different blocks, and the mirroring mechanism will copy unexpected blocks back and forth across the machines and introduce corruptions into the database. And that can end up being very nasty. Sometimes it's not that big a problem. You can find the problem easily and fix it, but sometimes it leads to very serious corruption and loss of data.
Okay, thanks, James. So the first step we're going to do is just become super user. You have to be a super user to halt the operating system, not to enter the iNEWS, specific iNEWS commands, but we'll become super user, and it's always important for you to know your super user password, which is the root password, Linux root password as well on the servers. And now that I'm super user, we're going to take the servers offline is the first thing I'll do. And what that will do is prevent any new users from logging into the system. It won't affect currently logged in users. And I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can back and forth. Next, we'll just check to see who's logged in. So I can see I've got 3 users currently logged into the system. So typically when you shut down a system, you probably want to schedule it and notify your users in Newsroom well ahead of time. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes an emergency crops up where you have to just shut the system down. And it's always a little polite thing to do to ask the users to log off the system before you just go ahead and shut it down. So we can do that by sending a broadcast, and we use the broadcast, iNEWS broadcast command to do that. The -D will just create a pop-up on their screen, so it's more in their face that the system is going to be coming down. And I'll just say, you know, the iNEWS system is being halted for system maintenance. It can be any message you want to send, and that will pop up on the user screen. We'll give them a second to, you know, save their stories, wrap up what they're doing, and we'll check again to see who's logged in. I see that the Avstar user actually logged out. So one user logged out, one of the 3 logged out in this instance. We can go ahead and force the other users to log out. I see James also logged out, so we're down to 1 user. And Jim just isn't getting the message, so he may be away from his desk at the moment or something. We'll go ahead and we'll log out Jim and anybody else who's in the system. And then we'll do that with a logout all command. And then we'll do that on the B server as well. So now we've logged out all users on the system. If I check again, it should come up with no users logged in. And the next step is to shut down iNEWS. So this is a script that runs, and it does some housekeeping stuff. So it's going to stop all of the iNEWS devices that are currently running, Action servers, TX servers, mail server, RxNet connections, any service that's running iNEWS service, and it's also going to close the database. This is an important command that should be entered on both servers as close to simultaneously as you can. So I will just enter it on the A server first, and switch over to B and enter it there. And of course, course, this system doesn't have. This is a virtual system, and there are not a lot of things going on. So it shuts down very quickly. If you're a manager of a large iNEWS system, it may take, a little bit of time, up to maybe a couple minutes to shut everything down. The last thing we're going to do is halt the operating system. And there's a number of Linux commands I can use to halt the operating system. I can use the Linux shutdown command. I can use halt. I can use init 0. In this case, I'll just type halt. It's the quickest thing I can do. And we'll halt the A server and halt the B server. And as you can see, the operating system is shutting down all the Linux services that are running.
Some of you might be a bit nervous about the command line interface. Anybody who's been brought up on computers in the last 10 years or so, there's many more graphical interfaces than what there used to be. But it's not anything to be worried about. There's only a few commands you'll need to perform these shutdowns and reboots and startups, and they're all well documented. But one important thing to remember about them, though, is that the Linux command line is strictly case sensitive. So the commands here must be entered in exactly the same case as they're presented. Otherwise they won't work. Probably the worst that will happen with these commands is the command just simply won't run, because the command has got, the name of the command is in lowercase, and that means you must put in the command as lowercase in order for the operating system to find that command. But there are other commands, if you go into deeper commands, the more complex things, that case becomes extremely sensitive, because a small an option to a command might be a lowercase x, and another one might be an uppercase x, and if you get them the wrong way around, you can cause damage.
Okay, thanks, James. And so now you can see my my servers are shut down and powered off. These are again VM servers running on VMware, not real bare metal machines. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, well, how did that happen? Okay. We're going to talk about how to properly start up the system. So the first thing we'll do is obviously power on the servers, or in this case, the VM guests. We'll log in as the SO user, that stands for system operator, and again, it's another user account in iNEWS that you need to have a password for. There are two users, Linux users, for administering an iNEWS system. One is the SO user and the other is the SU user. Really, it's the root user. SU is a command that invokes root privileges. And then we'll connect the servers, and this is where we tell it the system's going to be an AB system. We're going to have two servers in the system. And then lastly, we'll start up all the iNEWS devices and services and put the system online so the users can log in. So I'll go back to my two screens here. And we'll turn the power on the A server, and we'll turn the power on the B server. I just did that by clicking the green arrow at the top of, on the menu bar, at the top of each console VM here. And Linux will boot up to the login prompt automatically. If you don't do anything, it will just auto boot. It should anyway.
Another very important thing here is you will have noticed there that Tom had to switch to root privileges in order to be able to shut the thing, to shut the servers down, and that's good practice to keep the servers out of SU mode, because it forces you to log in as root to switch the machines off. And if you're doing that, that means you know what the root password is, because the danger is that you could shut the machines down not knowing what the passwords are. And that happens sometimes. You know, it's someone that, and you need the passwords to be able to start the machines up, as Tom's just about to do here. So this sometimes happens. We get a phone call from people asking what their passwords are because they've shut down the machines. They've been able to shut them down because the systems were already logged in as root, but someone may have left the organisation and taken the passwords with them. And you should not, and you cannot depend on us knowing the passwords, and you shouldn't depend on us knowing the passwords, because that's very bad practice.
Okay, so the next step is we've booted the system up. It's waiting for me to log in. Again, I'm going to log in as the system operator, SO user, and I'm going to type my password incorrectly there by mistake. And we'll get it yet. SO. There we go. And now I'll log into the other server. Okay, so we're logged into the system. iNEWS really isn't started up yet. The only iNEWS program I think that is currently running is the BIO server. If I type in status, it's going to tell me the computer's not named, the disk status is okay. So we're really not started up yet. There's a couple more steps we need to take. I want to connect this system as a dual AB system. So I need to tell the system that this is going to start up in a dual AB mode. I'm going to do this with the connect command. And on the A server, I'm going to type in connect B. On the B server, I'm going to type in connect, I'm sorry, on the A server, connect B, and on the B server, I'm going to type in connect B. I don't have to specify that this is a net AB system specifically, because that variable is defined in a system profile. So the system's automatically going to know that this is a dual system. If I wanted to connect it single, then I would have to specify that it's a single server system. This is a command you need to enter on both systems simultaneously, or close to simultaneously. So I'll enter it on A first, and then I'll switch over to B, and I'll enter it on B. And now the two computers are talking to each other, and they will synchronize up. It takes a minute to do that. And it's starting up a bunch of the services. And now it's telling me the system is offline. It's an AB system. The master is the A server. The database is in read-write mode. The disk status is okay, and its database is open. So the last thing I need to do is to get iNEWS working. It's still not working to the point where users can log in. Is I have to run a startup command, and it's really a shell script again that does a number of things. Checks for free space, checks which computer is the master. If it is the master, it runs configure, builds the configuration file for the system, and then boots all the devices. So I'll go ahead and start that on A, and then I'll just switch over to B, and I'll do it on B. And of course, we've got some errors in our configuration. This is a starter database with a starter config file, and things don't quite match up, so you may see some errors on the screen, but don't be concerned with those. And that should be it. The system should be started up. I think, James, if you have the client running there, you might be able to log in, and we'll see you logged in. Yep, there you are. So that's it. That's basically how you start up a dual server system. Not too terribly difficult, but again, it's something that you probably won't do very often. So you'll want to have these steps, I think, written down when you have to shut your system down or when you have to start your system up as a guide to be able to, you know, make sure that you go through all the steps properly. Let's see here. I'm having a little problem pulling up the PowerPoint. Oh, that's because I'm still stuck in, and I don't know why it keeps going there, but it does. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is reboot the dual server system. And rarely, but occasionally, you do have to reboot a system. Something just may not be working correctly. Perhaps you called customer support and we just can't figure out how to fix it, how to unstuck whatever's stuck. And you may need to reboot the system. There may be other reasons to reboot. But the reboot and the is very much like the shutdown and the startup, except we're not going to turn the computers off in this case. The computers will halt the operating system. The computer then will automatically reboot the operating system and start the servers up. So it's basically the same commands: su offline, check list S to check users who are logged in, maybe send a broadcast message, log out users who are logged in, shut down iNEWS, and reboot the operating system. Then it'll automatically reboot. We'll log in as the system operator user again. We'll connect the servers, and we'll start up the system. So I'll go back to my two windows, and we'll go through these steps too. Display all 118 possibilities. Well, I don't know what that is, but let's answer no. Okay. So the first thing we'll do is become super user. And we'll take the servers offline. Again, this is to prevent users from logging in while you're shutting the system down. We don't want to be fighting the never-ending battle. So there, James tried to log in while the system was offline, and we did get a message that the system is currently offline. The user will also get that message as well. Check to see who's logged in. Well, Jim is logged in, so we're going to broadcast a message. Hopefully Jim will log out. If he doesn't, we'll log him out with the logout command. Okay, Jim's being stubborn, so we'll log him out. And lastly, we'll shut down iNEWS. And you'll notice that I'm prepping it so I can hit return as close to possible. If you have an old iNEWS console, which was a DOS program which allowed you to enter commands on both screens at the same time, you'd only have to type this once and hit enter, and it would shut down both servers at the same time. If you have perhaps PuTTY CS set up to do the same thing, to send commands simultaneously to two PuTTY windows, you can do it that way. Because I'm on a KVM, or not a KVM, but I'm on a VM client here, I don't have that capability. So I'm just prepping them so I can hit return and then switch to the other machine and hit return as closely as I can. And so we want to close the database at the same time on both servers. It looks like we're shut down. And to reboot the system, again, there's a variety of commands you can use. You can use reboot, init space 6, the number, or shutdown, sbin, shutdown minus R now, or some time frame if you want to specify a number of minutes. We'll just use reboot. It's the quickest, one of the quicker things to type. Again, this has to be entered as a user with root privileges, so super user. And I'll go ahead, reboot A. It's shutting down, and I'll reboot B. And you may have to do this, for example, if you make some configuration changes to your system profile, for example. Those are system-wide changes, and you may want to change the local timeout, or you may want to change your high and low watermarks. There may be a number of things you want to do, and in order to do that, those changes are looked at connect time. So you do have to shut your system down and reboot it in order for those changes to take effect. So that could be another reason for taking the system through a reboot. James, I don't know if you can think of any other reasons.
It's very rare in general that you have to reboot an iNEWS system. The Linux operating system is very stable, and there's hardly any. It's almost unknown for it to have things like memory leaks and problems like that. So you don't have to generally reboot for Linux, and you don't generally have to reboot for iNEWS. But as you mentioned there are some system settings that do require reboots. They're quite unusual though. Those settings are usually decided upon at the time of installation and can be left untouched for most of the life of the system. But some adjustments are required after maybe a few years of operation or a few months of operation, like deciding on a different idle timeout value, or to adjust the size of the watermarks perhaps if database is running a bit more full than it used to. And those changes require a reboot to make the system see the changes. But in general, some iNEWS systems run for years without requiring reboots.
Okay, thanks, James. So I've already logged in here as system operator. And the next thing we're going to do is connect the servers. So I think at this time, I'm going to do something a little bit differently, and I'm going to connect the system with B being the master server. For this reason, for this exercise, I wanted to demonstrate how to change the master server identity. So we'll type again the connect command, and this is the A server, so it's connect A, and we're going to tell it the master is the B computer. And we'll do this over on the B side as well. Connect B, master equals B. And then I'll hit return first on the master, switch over to the computer, which will be the slave, and hit return there. So what does the master computer do? If you have that question, the master computer basically manages the free list of the system. It manages the free space on the system. So it does the purging of queues when stories get too old, and it removes those stories from the dead queue or waste, the wastebasket type of queue before the space gets too low on the system. So it kind of does all the housekeeping information. And other than that, iNEWS really doesn't care which computer is the master. Well, I've talked to many customers, and they usually like A to be the master. So if for some reason they have a server failure, the A server fails and B becomes the master, they usually like to make A the master again as quickly as possible, just for the convenience of their best practices, and what they do, being able to administer the system. So right now, if I type in status, it should tell me that B is now the master computer on this dual system. And lastly, we'll start up the devices. I'll start up rather B first. It's now the master, and it's going to run configure and configure the system, and then I'll switch over to A rather, which is the slave server, and I'll start it up. And we're back up and running. So let's go back to my slides, and again, I'm stuck in this mode.
There's an important thing to remember here. There are very, very few golden rules whenever you're running an iNEWS system, but one of the main golden rules is that Tom restarted the systems there, and in both times he did it, he was able to start the servers together as a dual because he knew that the servers had been shut down correctly beforehand because he had just done it himself a few minutes before. So the golden rule is that if you do not know for certain that the system was shut down properly, do not start the system up as a dual. So I'll reiterate that because it's very, very important. If the systems were shut down correctly, then it is okay to start them up as the normal dual. If you have any doubt, then don't. You need to go in and do a recovery procedure instead. So it's very, very important because let's say, for example, if you get in the morning and both servers are sitting on the question mark prompt, and that means that the servers have just started up and iNEWS software isn't running. Now, either someone on the night shift maybe forgot to start them up after doing some maintenance, or perhaps there was a power outage overnight. Now, if you know it was the former, then you can probably start up as normal. The guy just forgot to start them up again. But if it was a power cut, then you should instead perform the recovery procedure because you don't know that the system was shut down properly. In fact, in that case, it wouldn't have been shut down properly. It was a power failure. And the reason for that, again, goes back to the importance of keeping the servers in perfect perfect database synchronization. Only if you know the databases are the same should you join the two servers together as a normal dual.
Yes, that is important. That is very important. And the remirroring process isn't that daunting, so some people may think they can skip over it, but it really should be done, and it will ensure that the database is in perfect synchronization. On this slide here, we talked about making B the master server, which I just went through. And those are the commands there if you're connecting a dual server system and you want B to be the master, which we just did. And I don't know why I did that. I wanted to do that. Okay, so in some cases, you might need to connect a server as a single server. And maybe, James, you can talk about this while I go ahead and reboot the system to get it into the state where I can connect a server as single.
Yes, the Connect the Connect program is used to this is what we use to tell the system which server is currently going to be responsible for being the master. So on the A machine, if the Connect program takes a couple of several parameters. Normally, you can get away with just putting in Connect A and Connect B, but if you want to specify something different from the default settings that are held in the /site/system file, then you can specify that upon the shutdown, upon entering the command. So that lets you start up as with whatever machine you want as the master. Or you can, if it's a triple system, you might want to bring it up as an AB or a BC instead of an ABC, and that's where you put it in. You can put in a net parameter there to tell it exactly what configuration you want.
Okay, so we're in the process of, again, rebooting the servers. And this will only take a moment. If you were rebooting your servers through a PuTTY connection with an SSH secure shell connection, obviously if you reboot, it will close the network connection to that server and you won't see all these messages. So some of you who have PuTTY set up for administering your servers or something and you're using SSH, just be aware that you're not going to see the operating system messages scroll on your screen if you reboot the system that way. So log in as the system operator again. And,
PuTTY with PuTTY CS is the modern equivalent of our old console. But there is a question in the chat there asking about why not use about using the console and having both A and B be in control at the same time. Now we were able to do this. This is the original design of the system. We had a console that sat in between the two systems and had serial connections to the servers, and it was a pretty clever piece of serials of serial programming. You could control two servers at the same time from the same keyboard, and see the responses from both servers at the same time on the screen. But it was it's an old program. It ran under DOS with serial cards, and DOS doesn't exist anymore as Microsoft won't support it, and hardly anybody knows about serial communications now, and the old traditional console is dying away really. We can more or less we can almost reproduce it all using the PuTTY program. That will allow serial connections as well if you've got serial connectivity, and the PuTTY CS will still allow you to operate both consoles at the same time over PuTTY sessions. It's not exactly the same because the logging, not all logging comes through to the PuTTY sessions. There are various streams of logging that come out of the iNEWS program. Some go to the console and some don't.
okay, so now we're going to connect the servers as single servers. So I am going to type in connect to A because this is the A server, and I'm going to have to tell it it's a single server. And the reason why, if I look at my system profile, which is the file /site/system, if you look down on, let's see, the first line there, I'm sorry, where it says ID is burl trn1, and then it says netab. When you run connect, it's going to take that netab parameter, and it's going to assume that if you're not specifying what the configuration is going to be. So in this case, I am going to type in connect A, net equals A. I'm going to override that setting. And I could type, I'll show you on the B side, but that will connect the server as a single server. If I switch to B, I can also type in connect B, and I can type in the word single equals B. That's also a valid parameter for connect. Oh, and of course, this being a live demo, we make mistakes. There we go. So now we've got two servers which are connected single. When these servers start up, they will have, over time, and it probably won't take too long, to similar databases. So this might be the state, the next thing we were going to talk about. The next thing we were going to talk about is what do you do if you have a mirror network disconnect? So a mirror network, the system typically has multiple network interfaces. Most sites have two network interfaces. Some have more. depending on, their deployment. But one of those networks is a mirror bus, and its sole purpose is to mirror the database between the different nodes, whether you have 2 or 3. In this case, we have 2. Sometimes that network connection goes away for some reason, and the servers disconnect from each other. And that can be a bad thing, because now you've got some users logged into server A, some users logged into server B, making changes to 2 different databases. And you might, if this ever happens, you might get users coming up to you and saying, hey, the producer is working on his rundown for the 5 o'clock show, and I don't see the rundown. It's not there. Things like that, because they're logged into 2 different systems looking at 2 different databases. So what we need to do is, if you get information like that from your staff, the first thing to do is check the status on both servers. We don't want to ignore this problem, so we want to check the status on both servers and see if they're connected or not. And then if they are disconnected, we need to determine which server is going to be the survivor, because we're going to have to clear the database on one of them and remirror it. So we'll then configure the survivor, reboot the other server, and go through the recovery process. So we'll quickly do this in the few minutes we have left here. We do obviously have 2 systems. So if I run status, you can see my system is A, my master is A. And if I look at the B server, I can see that system is B and that master is B. So either the users reported that they saw a message on their terminals, their workstations, that said, the B server disconnected or the A server disconnected, or they're starting to see some kind of issues with not seeing stories that other people are seeing and that kind of things, not the servers not being in sync with each other. So we're going to pick, in this case, and I'm just in the short time, we're going to pick A to be the survivor system. Let's say the producer's on A and he's got his whole 5 o'clock rundown built. Well, we don't want to make B the survivor because we'll lose his 5 o'clock rundown. So let's assume we're going to make A the survivor. I'll become super user on A, and the first thing I'm going to do is run the configure command. To do that, I have to briefly take the system offline, run configure, and put the system back online. That only took a few seconds, so during those few seconds, users would not have been able to log in. The next thing to do is we're going to have to shut down the B server. And typically you wouldn't even have to do this, but we'll go through the logout all and shut down. And we'll reboot the A machine. So the B machine. So while this is happening, all the user connections now are going to go to server A. Typically your DNS will probably be set up to, just go to the node name, and then it will try server A and try server B after that. So in this case, server A is the only computer running. Everything is configured on server A, so all connections will go to server A. And the system will remain in that state for a while we go through the recovery process here.
So that configure command that Tom run there is very important, because that tells the surviving machine that it is now responsible for running the devices that normally run on the failed server. So if you don't run configure there, the survivor will remain set to only host half of the user load. So usually the user load is split between the 2 machines. And if the B machine dies, the A machine still only will run half the user load. So the configure command is you telling the A server to take over responsibility for the devices that normally run on B, and that will allow all the users then to log on to the surviving machine. Otherwise, you'll get complaints from your newsroom that people aren't able to log in, and only half the normal users will be able to get in and work. But Tom, I think we could go on for. I feel we're just getting started on
Yes.
what we could explain on all the things we can do with iNEWS and the processes that are essential to know. Maybe we could, I don't know, we should maybe have another a second or maybe an additional tech talk on this subject and expand on what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. It's always not the best thing to try to rush through things and spend a little bit more time on them. So I think you're right there, and perhaps we ought to end now and go to the questions that are coming in. If everybody's okay with that, we can go ahead and do that. There is a question here from Garrett regarding startup, and it's very small here, so I'm having a hard time reading it, but it says, can you just enter the commands one time using the console and do an A-B so you don't have to switch back and forth? Yes. The answer to that would be you need that type of terminal interface in order to do that. So as we were explaining, the old iNEWS console can do that. If you use PuTTY with PuTTY CS, you can enter commands simultaneously to two different PuTTY windows. There may be other terminal applications out there that can do this as well. I'm not aware of them. In this particular instance, I'm using VMware, so it doesn't have that functionality. That's why I've been switching back and forth. Another question from Andrew. How to maintain a healthy database? Well, how to maintain, we actually did have a tech talk on that back in November, and I think that is posted online. And it might be a good idea, Andrew, if you want to review that tech talk session. I don't have the URL off the top of my head, but we can certainly get you that information, and you can review that tech talk that was broadcast last November. There are a lot of things you can do to maintain a healthy database and a lot of utilities to help you do that. Let's see.
I've got one here that says, what happens if two dissimilar databases are connected together?
Okay, James, go ahead and answer that.
Well, you start to notice that there are two main things that start to happen. You may notice that you'll get complaints from the newsroom that someone is writing stories in a rundown. So an editor, a journalist might be putting the rundown together, and they'll be telling their colleagues, right, I've just put this story into the rundown, have a look at it, or it's gone for editing by somebody else, and the colleague will say, oh, well, I can't see that story in that rundown. What are you talking about? It's not there. And that argument will go back and forward a few times in the newsroom before eventually they'll call the administration people and point out or say that that's what's happening. Stories appearing on one person's terminal are invisible on another person's terminal, and that's because the writer's terminal will be logged into the A machine, and the other person's terminal will be logged onto the B machine, and stories that are being copied back and forth are not ending up in the right place because the databases are separated, or not separated, but or out of synchronization. Other things that you will notice is that people won't be able to log in if the important system files at the top of the database are getting corrupted, or you won't be able to navigate to certain queues. If you try to go to a particular queue, the client will tell you that it can't open the story. So general bad things start to happen, and more bad things start to happen, and it becomes accumulative, and eventually the system will grind to a halt, and nobody will be able to log in and do anything at all. So it's good to catch it early if you can.
Okay, thanks, James. There are a few more questions. Let's try to get at least to some of these. Do I need to assign the master server each time I reboot the system? No, you don't. By default, the system will assign the master status to server A. That's just part of the default behavior of Connect. If you want to change the master server assignment, make it B, or in a triple system, make it C, then yes, you would have to use the master option to Connect to assign the master computer to another one other than A. Let's see, from Dan Braun, let's see, I should mention that users will be able to start monitors if it is configured on the other server or wires or action servers.
Yeah, that's why it's important to run
Yes, I think
configure.
that's if it's a disconnect, right? Are we talking about, that's probably, yes, why we run configure if there has been a disconnect, because what configure will do is configure everything onto that one server, all the devices. Some devices don't automatically configure over to the server following a disconnect. Monitors actually do, but client connections don't, FTP server connections, RxNet connections don't. I can't think of any others off the top of my head that don't automatically configure over to the single server, but some don't. So that's why we do run configure. Let's see. Will there be a procedure if two sites iNEWS servers connected via community? There's nothing in community. I think the question means if your system is part of a community system, is there any special procedure for shutting it down and starting it up? If that's the question, no, not really. I don't know if logout all logs out community connections. Do you know, James?
That's a good question. I don't think it does.
So yeah, that's a very good question. I think we're going to have to research that a little bit more and do a little testing and get back to you on that. We will save all these questions, and I believe these will be posted, so we'll get you an answer to that one directly. But typically, no, there's nothing you have to do with community server connections. The only thing I can think of is the logout all command. I don't know if it does log out community clients or not. I would think it might, but I've actually never tested that, so I'm not certain. I think that's it for the questions. And let me get out of these screens here. We didn't get to go over these things, but as James said, we may want to do a further training session on some of these other things that we didn't quite touch on today. We do, though, have links to a lot of technical articles on computers disconnecting, recovery procedures, recovering from power failures, shutting down iNEWS, and single, dual, and triple iNEWS system startup sequences. So Again, these are all good reference articles to look at for these processes or procedures. And again, we'll try to get the next time to have more discussion on the config file, how it's used, and the site system profile, and how it's used with Connect. And I think that's it for James and I. So I think at this point we'll turn it back over to Kelly.
Great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Tom and James, for conducting today's Avid Tech Talk session. And any questions that Tom or James weren't able to answer, if they start to filter in and they get some other questions, as we said, they'll be sent out in a follow-up email in the next few days after we have an opportunity to document the answers to each question. Now, we do hope you found today's information valuable and useful. As we plan our next webcast session, we want to make sure that we include topics that are most valuable to our customers. So while we wrap up this webcast, we have a huge favor to ask everyone. Terry is going to be sending out a survey link in the WebEx session. So if you open up your chat window and you look there in the chat option, then we'll be sending out a link there. And it looks like it just got posted. So please just click on that. It's a really brief survey, and what will happen is you'll be able to give us feedback on today's session. You'll also be able to give us ideas for topics that you'd like us to cover in future Tech Talk sessions as well. So again, please take a few moments, fill out that survey for us. We'd really appreciate it. Additionally, what we wanted to go over here is if you found today's sessions useful or helpful, we also have some other training options to help you be even more successful with iNEWS. And this is training for users, administrators, and support engineers. Real briefly, I'll go through each of these. Our user course, iNEWS 101, is delivered on-site and includes 3 sessions: basics, script writing, and production, which are tailored to script workflow defined for your station. The IN200 is delivered on-site also during all new implementations. This course is attended by representatives from all areas of a station with the purpose of defining scripting workflows and templates, macros and shortcut keys, print styles and rundown layouts, permissions, and more, in order to ensure the iNEWS database is configured and customized to meet the needs of the production. At the end of the course, the attendees will have knowledge and capabilities to be iNEWS super users and able to support other users during a new implementation rollout. We also offer a system administrator and support engineer courses. This is a 3-day IN300 iNEWS system administration course and a 2-day IN310 advanced system admin course. These courses are available on-site and they can bring iNEWS administrators up to speed with iNEWS configuration, database, and user management, as well as user permissions, security, and much more. And if you are an experienced iNEWS administrator, you can take the iNEWS system administration certification. This is an officially recognized certification that allows you to promote your qualifications through the use of Avid certified logo in your email, signature, and online business platforms such as LinkedIn, etc. So these course outlines and all of these certifications can be found on avid.com/training if you'd like more details. So this does wrap up today's session. We want to thank you for attending the session. We hope you found the information valuable and useful. Please visit our registration page on an ongoing basis. We're going to be posting here in the next week our next session that's going to be starting over the summer. We're really excited for that. It'll be starting in July, and we should have some really great topics. And also, as we plan our next webcast, make sure you respond to the survey. You'll receive a request in an email to take a survey as well, and it's the same survey that we've asked you to take today. So either take it today for us or give us your feedback when you get that email asking you to take the survey. No need to respond to it more than once, but we'd love to get your feedback. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's session.